We're coming into food shortages. Solar activity shows that this is the entry date right around 2020 into this grand solar minimum. They're going to have innovative ways to get people and redirect food into the home, not the, convention centers and universities and schools where up to 40% of that's wasted. If you could stop that wastage, you could buy 2 years of food across the planet. And lo and behold, look what happened in 2019. Now they're taking it a second step, saying, don't even worry about the dates anymore. And see, I keep getting these kind of repeats of history. Once the people have no lifeline, and the goodbye dates are now being done away with. Now, England or the UK is doing away with all of the goodbye dates on any cans, things purchased in the supermarket. Now, this is from the World Economic Forum. I just did a video yesterday from the World Economic Forum and their website. They're going to start with the UK to see how it works first. So there's going to be no more dates on the cans, boxes, et cetera, to tell you when to throw it away. What they want you to do is, if it's been in your closet for a while, open it up and give it the sniff test. They actually want you to smell the food to see if it's good or bad. If it smells bad, throw it away. If it smells good, continue to use it. But, the litigiousness, I don't know if that's a word, of American society, you can't start putting things in food banks that have no expiration date because they're going to be suing you left, right, and center. So then you're going to get that knock-on effect of a lot of food banks are just going to close because they can't guarantee the safety. A lot of those organizations are really large, usually associated with Christian organizations or churches. Their lawyers are going to advise them, you're going to have to close this because we can't guarantee the safety of the food. It only takes one or two of those people who want the easy money to come back and sue us. So you're going to watch a closure of a lot of food banks. And there's already been a lot of not as high dispersal rates from the general public into the food banks like there used to be. People are pulling back on their pocketbooks too. So donations to these food banks. So you're going to see this crescendo of one thing after another, knocking out what would have been the safety net for the lowest earners that are out there. And then what happens if they can't use their credit cards for food? The food banks are closed. They have no access to food. They're getting evicted out of their homes because they can't pay the rent. Okay, if that's one family or two families, they could be taken in on a social program. Again, a lot of like Carm is a big one that operates here in East Tennessee. They got the homeless shelters. They got the food banks. They try to do the best they can to place families in working positions or other people's homes that will accept them out on farms, et cetera. But if that net's gone and then it's millions of those same scenarios, then we get into this social unrest that we've seen in chapters of history. I think we're precariously close to that. Our social net's about to have a big old hole in it. Russia, China, and India are saying goodbye to the U.S. dollar as Biden is paying off student loans and printing more money. Some say the new reserve currency called BRICS should be backed by gold. Patriot Gold Group has a no-fee-for-life IRA or 401k that can be in physical gold or silver. And you may be eligible for the no-fee-for-life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Patriot Gold Group, Consumer Affairs top-rated gold IRA dealer 6 years in a row. Call 1-800-356-4470. And now on with the video.
What was the World Economic Forum's, what was their reason for removing the use-by date label? I mean, to me, that it doesn't just impact food banks, but when you look at a lot of people who are starting in prepping or trying to prep but don't have the ability of growing their own food and canning their own food, because generally when you grow your own, you can your own, you have a pretty good inventory of when it was created. If you go to the grocery store and you buy something on the shelf that doesn't have a use-by date, you have no clue when it was created. So even if you bought that and wanted to put it in your prepper pantry at home, you have no idea how long it can sit there before it's bad. You have no idea of your own inventory. So I'm just curious what their reasoning was. What's the benefit of removing the use-by date?
Saving 7 million baskets/carts of food per year. Now, for me, I was looking at that saying, wait a second, COVID or pre-COVID, you decided that it was okay to waste all that food. And, I'd done a video this is before the COVID, or right around that time, 2018, middle of 2019. I was stating that, we're coming into food shortages. Solar activity shows that this is the entry date right around 2020 into this grand solar minimum, that they're going to have innovative ways to get people and redirect food into the home, not the, convention centers and universities and schools where up to 40% of that's wasted every day. And I was saying there's going to have to be a novel, innovative way to move all that wasted food back into the home to buy some more time. And I was saying it could buy about 2 years of time. If we could take all the available food waste that was done in, food and bev settings, and that includes all the above, from restaurants all the way to convention centers. If you could stop that wastage, you could buy 2 years of food across the planet. And lo and behold, look what happened in 2019. All restaurants closed, all schools closed, all universities closed, all convention centers closed. Airlines are a huge waster of food too. No more air flights. Think about all that food that got redirected back into people's fridges. Now they're taking it a second step, saying, don't even worry about the dates anymore. So to say that they're worried about saving 7 million carts of food that would be thrown away by people, like my sister's notorious for this. She'll look at something, oh, it's 1 day over, throw it away. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. That's vinegar. You can keep, that's salt. They have expiration dates on salt. I'm like, it's a mineral in the earth for millions of years and you got an expiration date on honey as well. Like, some of these things are so ridiculous that there's goodbye dates on vinegar, honey, and salt, for example. That's 3 low-hanging fruit. But for them to now care about food wastage when before it was this, sharing economy. And I really hate the way the world got strung along into that. 2017, 18, 19 is about buy 10 more Airbnbs, flights are cheaper, the whole sharing economy, Uber, this, that. They moved the world into that thing and then they just cut it off in a fell swoop. It's like, put your arm into the guillotine. Okay, further, cool, and cut it off. It's exactly what happened. If you look back in history to see just even a few years ago. So they were trying to buy more food for us at the time, or trying to not allow the general populace to see the food shortages were getting as strong as they were, because everybody's locked down, everybody's eating at home. You're not seeing it. But now we've already run that course. We're at the very razor thin edge now of everybody seeing that there are going to be food shortages, and even cooking at home is still not going to do it anymore. So I think they're out of options, and the WEF coming out to say, save your food, just don't throw it away. That's just, we've entered that zone now for sure. That was definitely a indicator that we're there. So from here, where do we go? See, that's the whole thing. Like, how quickly is it going to manifest from now until, everybody gets it?
We haven't really seen an increase, a notable increase in ending stockpiles since about 2016. And a lot of that has to do with, we have a higher demand, higher growing population. But you mentioned solar minimum. That is going to, can you explain how that's going to impact and why you think we're heading into a solar minimum right now?
Not my own research, but I compiled a bunch of research over the last 7-8 years doing what I do as a full-time pursuit now. There were so many peer-reviewed astrophysicists, scientists, astronomers, mathematicians, physics that were saying, there's a problem with the sun. It goes through a cycle. And as we look at it now, we're coming into another one. Now, in itself, the sun going into a low magnetic field state, big whoop. But when you bring it down to our planting and harvesting dates that are now done by agribusiness, that is a big deal suddenly. Because what we used to think of as rock solid planting and harvesting dates are no longer valid. And at the same time, with a very weakened magnetic field on the sun, our Earth's magnetosphere, the magnetic shielding of our planet, weakens in itself. This is allowing a lot of what you see of the jet stream anomalies, where these polar vortices are going down past Cuba now. And in the last 3 or 4 years, they had to bring a new term in called the equatorial vortex to explain how normally doldrum areas are pushing way up to, let's say, Northern Europe, which they didn't before. So they're bringing new lexicon in to explain these changes, but it's simply, if the magnetic field's not strong enough on our planet based on the magnetic field of the sun, there's an equilibrium there, that our jet stream and cloud cells move into different positions. And there's more cosmic rays allowed in, which create more cloud cover. Now, currently, there's a measurement on this. 18,500 to 23,000 feet is this new cloud layer building in addition to the jet streams in the wrong places in the wrong times of the years, colliding with cloud cells that are wringing out moisture as they compete to find new flows in the sky, and then added a whole nother layer of clouds on top, or I should say intermixed on that boundary layer at 18,000, or let's say 20,000 feet. Agriculture is going to struggle moving forward. And see, this is the thing. Once you find these chapters in history, food production is what takes down the society. Nothing else. It's simply food production is not stable enough to feed everybody, and this causes the social chaos. And everything else stems from the food, lack of food, the famines. Nothing else is of itself. It's all an effect of the food losses first. Everything else is just a chain reaction after the food collapses. And if you know that we're set to start one, and we're already into it right now, you can start to see, well, society was affected like this before. How are governments going to react now? And then you get this back and forth of looking back in a history book and then comparing it with today's news. History book, government move. History book, world global government move. History book, World Economic Forum reset. History book, what's going on next? And you're getting this back and forth of, we're just repeating chapters in history on how defined or how intense are these crop losses for the general populace to understand. The higher the crop losses get and the more the general populace understands, the more tightly the control net needs to come down to try to control angry citizens who throughout history have overthrown every government that has been toppled under a popular revolt because of food shortages. So that's the research that I'm going on. And, we are at that point again, and you can see it so clearly if you're looking for these events it's not really a timeline, it's an event line. So once you see the event, then it ticks the box for, okay, look for the next set of events to unfold. And once then you start to validate that next set of events is unfolding. Then you can go to the next set to see where it is, because history will give you a pretty good trail of where our societies are being guided down right now. Like in national parks, stay on the trail. You can't walk over there. There's almost an extinct flower. Don't step on it. Look, stay on the trail. That's exactly what we're seeing right now. So the trail is quite clean to know where we're going to be pushed to.
And all this time, I thought climate change came from CO2. I'm just kidding.
Well, if I could add a point to that, there's a slide I just got. I wanted to try to put it in a video here in the near future. 72 companies on the planet are responsible for 80% of the emissions. 72. That's not me or you, Charlie. That's not our cows. That's not my neighbor's cows. That's not your cows, your bison, nothing. That is corporations running their big boats, corporations running their big factories. Corporations hooked us on all their junk and just-in-time delivery and trinkets of junk from China sent across the ocean on polluting vessels. I don't have a factory, do you?
I talk a lot about bringing things back local. And I think that in this day and age, local has a whole new meaning as well, because you could have a community amongst friends and family that's spread out across the United States. So maybe local is not the right word for it anymore, but bringing it back to a community focus where you create trade within that community, where you supply goods within that community, people play roles within it. Whether you're concerned about CO2 causing climate change, or you're concerned about the degradation of land and your ability to grow crops in it, whatever your concern is, it doesn't really matter if you're concerned about, this a world government taking things over. If everybody came together and said, what, we need to start localizing how we spend, how we interact within communities, you depower a lot of everything else that you see out there. I mean, it really changes everything. I mean, you just said 72 companies are producing the most CO2. Well, the reason why 72 companies are doing that, it's the same reason why we get our meat from 4 companies. We've consolidated the industry, made these mega powers. And, whether you want to look at it as in they control the market, they control what you have access to, or they're polluters, however you want to see them, relocalizing, bringing it back to community seems to me to be a solution for everybody's problem, whatever they see it as.